You think I am afraid of you?
You should be.
Look, as a bit of a Lord of the Rings nut, I thoroughly enjoyed War of the Rohirrim, but I gather you didn't know all that much about the Tolkien books before you were cast in this. What was your relationship to the books and the Peter Jackson films?
Well, because the films made me read the books, actually, I'll be quite honest with you. I had no knowledge, I had no literary knowledge of Tolkien at all. I was never really attracted by those kind of mythologies. I like Homer, so I'm not that I'm a Greek scholar or anything like that, but I like those mythologies much better than but then I didn't know about them, and subsequently I've been awoken to them, and I think Peter's done a genius job in getting the Tolkien out to the world, really.
Absolutely. Was there a character in those films that you would have particularly liked to have played? And I ask this particularly given what you wrote in your book about your very contrasting acting approaches to Ian McKellen, for example. I feel like you could have made a very different Gandalf.
Yeah, I think Ian was an extraordinary Gandalf. I mean, when Ian takes off, he's pretty hard to beat, actually, when he really takes off. You can quarrel with other things, but there's nobody can take off like Ian, and he does Gandalf really, exquisitely.
Yes, absolutely. You've done a lot of voice work over the years, though, from animated films to audio books and video games. You've got Santa Claus even coming up. What's the appeal for you?
I've always loved the radio. I'm sorry I'll call it the radio, but that's the thing. I've always loved. I was raised on the radio. You forget. I was a child in the very early 50s. Even just before, I remember when television came in. I remember television coming in, and we all went to see it on my pal's small TV set in 1953. And I was 7 or 8 at that time. I've always loved the radio, and the radio in the UK is second to none. Hancock's Half Hour, those kind of shows, Much Binding in the Marsh. I mean, really extraordinary stuff.
Yes.
The radio has been really the centre of me in many ways.
Absolutely. This is not your first experience with fantasy books written by Oxford Dons. I was rather astonished to read in your book that you were originally cast as the voice of Aslan in the Narnia books.
And I was fired.
I was going to ask, what...
No, I was let go.
What happened there, and what happened there, and what did you take from that experience into future voice performances such as this film?
No, I mean, the one thing I wouldn't, I'm not vain about it, but I do know, I think I do know how to speak. It's one advantage I've got. And so when I was fired, and I realized when I went in the studio on the first day, and I flew all the way to New Zealand to do it as well. I flew all the way to, I've forgotten the name of the town. It's on the South Island, Christchurch, and I flew down, And anyway, it was wonderful. It was just a lovely 2 days. And but the problem was that the director wanted it quiet, and the sound engineer wanted it much more dynamic, more bigger, and it was really this kind of, I could see what was going on. And of course, from the actor's point of view, I do the delivery. How you distort it is your business, So it was tough, but they paid me, and that was the main thing, And I had a very good relationship with Mark Johnson was an old friend of mine. In fact, Mark Johnson had produced a film my son was in, which was the young Sherlock Holmes film, many years ago. So it was fine. I let it go, and you do let it go. You can't dwell on these things, I had an incident many years ago, which I won't bore you with, so I've learned to let go. That's the business of being an actor. It's disappointment, and that's what keeps you going.
Fantastic. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. As I say, thoroughly enjoyed the film, and all the best with it.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.